Grain for grain, sun and rain, find my way through nature's chain as I tune my body and my brain to the music of the land. Inch by inch, row by row, someone let this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. Plant your rows straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will keep us strong if you give her love and care. Old crow watching hungrily from his perch on yonder tree. In my garden I'm as free as that feathered thief up there. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Come and warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. That's nice. Let's sing it one more time. Inch by inch, row by row, you make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, gone bless these so. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Testing. Thank you, Mr. Warren Miller. Oh my gosh. Good morning and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Bronwyn Butterfield, a mouthful, your worship associate today. We extend a warm welcome to all, and we're pleased that you're able to join us and hope you're feeling chipper this morning. If not, our caring, warm thoughts go out to you. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. Is anyone joining us for the first time this morning? If so, please stand up and introduce yourselves. Don't be shy. Anyone on this side? Okay, come on up. Here we go. Up, 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 up. No? Okay. This side. No? Okay. Last chance. Okay. Well, check out our website at prescottuu.org for more information about us. And be sure to stay and speak with a member of two. There are refreshments in Davis Hall after the service. It's in the foyer. So enjoy that get-together after the service. If you're viewing this service on Zoom, please join the breakout rooms after the service. We thank, many thanks today. We thank our pianist, Lena Huben, our guitar player and singer, Warren Miller, Suki Jones, our service planner this morning, Tracy Powers, our sound slide expert back in the corner, and all our Sunday morning volunteers. And please take a moment to set your phones on worship mode. In addition to announcements on the screen before the service, you can read other happenings at GPUU in our weekly newsletter, on our website, and in Reverend Patty's videos. Sandra Palacios, our Faith Development Coordinator, is teaching ages 5 and older across the street at our Faith Development Building. Ainsley O'Donnell, generally in our early childhood classroom behind the office, is joining her today, and I think they may have 1 or 2 students, including our granddaughter, Spella. At this time, it is my pleasure, totally, we're so fortunate, to introduce our guest speaker who will deliver the presentation in a few moments. Rebecca Serratos is the Vendor Development Coordinator for the Prescott Farmers Market. She grew up in Prescott and attended Prescott College, where she came to realize that Prescott is a pretty special place. Rebecca is passionate about systems work and sustaining local communities led by community leaders and change makers. Local food is a natural connector and community benefit that she is grateful to be part of. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is BJ. Welcome, BJ. Today, we light the chalice with these words by Ellen Hamilton. In faith, we light this small scrap of light, symbol of grandfather's son's enormous powers, whose energy burns so brightly in these days of deep summer, catapulting the leaves and vines, vegetables, flowers, and fruits to astonishing size, lengths, and heights, spilling over the tops of cages, walls, and trellises, delighting and nourishing all beings. We bask in the warmth and the heat of these days with enlightened hearts and quickened senses, in gratitude and in faith. These are the words of gathering today. We are glad you are here by Amanda Schubert. Get a drink of water before I continue. A message painted on a wall. Everyone is welcome. If this is your first time here or your 101st time, we are glad you are here. If you carry the weight of the weary world on your shoulders, where you entered through the doors with a song in your heart and skip in your step, we are glad you are here. If you are the loudest voice in the town square or the subtle voice behind the scenes, we are glad you are here. If you have failed once or 1,000 times, we are glad you are here. If you sing like angels or mumble behind the hymnal, we are glad you are here. The community is what it is because of your presence, each and every one of you. So welcome. Welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are glad that you are here. For those present in the sanctuary, which are many this morning, Please stand in body or spirit as we join with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir in singing our opening hymn, Bringing in the Sheaves. And if you're home, you might want to get off that couch and move around a bit. Please join me in saying the words to our covenant up on the screen. We are a compassion. Here we go. Sorry. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. Yes, indeed, that's our covenant. Okay. Our beloved community is the heart of Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I will now read the written words of our congregates. This is definitely a joy. Chris Hawthorne completed a marathon in Colorado, 26.2 miles at unbelievable elevations. Hooray for Chris Hawthorne. Yes. He's still young and strong. He'll always be young and strong, right? Fred Beeson is back home after a stay in the hospital. We all give our love and caring to Frank Beeson. Today, this is a joy. Today is Norma West's birthday. She here? Oh, there you are. Happy birthday. Let's sing her happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Norma. Happy birthday to you. And unfortunately, Dixie King is in the hospital. As we experience a time of meditation and music, we'll take a few moments to silently acknowledge the joys and sorrows, or joys and concerns of our hearts and of our minds. If there's an event which moves you to a joy or concern, hope or gratitude, I invite you to come forward silently and drop a pebble into our dishes on either side of the podium. It is a dish filled with water, a communal water, as an affirmation of our connection to one another. You may come up at this time if you wish. May our joys and concerns surrounded by the healing of communal waters of our beloved community be acknowledged here today. So may it be. Please sing these words of comfort. Walking with you is my prayer. As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program, and this month's recipient is the Coalition for Compassion and Justice, which many of you are familiar with. If not, please read about them in your order of service. To give online, a link is available in the chat, or you can go to the website. Enjoy our offertory music performed by Lena Hubin, Oats, Peas, Beans, and Barley Grown. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be. I think they're safe there. I would like to call up our guest today to do our reading. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, good morning. My name is Rebecca. Our reading today is excerpted from the 2011 Unitarian Universalist Association Statement of Conscience regarding ethical eating, titled Food and Environmental Justice. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to address our relationship with food. Our principles call for recognition of and respect for the other. As we search freely and responsibly for truth, meaning, and spiritual wholeness, we will make a variety of individual choices about food. Ethical eating is the application of our principles to our food choices. What and how we eat has broad implications for our planet and society. Our values, principles, and integrity call us to seek compassion, health, and sustainability in the production of food we raise or purchase. Access to an adequate supply of healthy food and clean water is a basic human right and need. Many people do not have adequate food, while others have a surplus. In many locations, poor distribution of food is a major contributor to hunger and malnutrition. The effects of climate change, weather conditions, and armed conflicts can also expose many people to starvation. Classism, racism, sexism, and other forms of oppression are deeply connected to economic justice, which is a prime determinant of access to food. Paradoxically, an abundance of food does not guarantee access to healthy food. As individuals and as congregations, we recognize the need to examine the impact of our food choices and our practices and make changes that will lighten the burden we place on the world. Ethical eating requires different ways of thinking about these issues that reflect their interconnected nature. And we understand this work will require creativity, patience, and resolve.
Now, please enjoy this musical interlude.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rebecca Serratos, and I work with the Prescott Farmers Market. I had a ton of fun preparing for this presentation, and I'm blown away by your musical choices. Way to go. So in preparing for this talk, I learned a ton. And that's why I'm still so drawn to food and specifically local food systems, is because there's always something to learn. So go ahead on the next slide. Okay. So the reading earlier was from this 2011 Statement of Conscience, and I'm going to read this other little bit. Aware of our interdependence, we acknowledge that eating ethically requires us to be mindful of the miracle of life we share with all beings. With gratitude for the food we have received, we strive to choose foods that minimize harm and are protective of the environment, consumers, farmers, and all those involved in food production and distribution. This was a gold mine for me to stumble upon. I'm not going to read the statement in its entirety, but I really encourage you all to do so. It's really, really well done. And from what I could gather was a collective effort over years to create this statement. So be proud of yourselves as you use, because this was an amazing find for me. I do, however, want to focus in on a few of the themes from this statement and take you all on a little journey with me into the world of local food and the Prescott Farmers Market. Thank you. So some themes I extracted from this statement are the same themes that I myself am drawn to. Themes of policy, systems, justice, equity. The work that we do at the Prescott Farmers Market, in my humble opinion, are the local examples of what this work looks like in action. I realize that when I say a few of these terms, some of you might be wondering what exactly I mean. I'll do my best to try to define and give examples as I go along. The first is this notion of a food system. A food system is simply the path that food travels from field to fork and all of the components that are part of that path. Government policies affect the food system, production practices influence it, and our nutrition plays a role too. Past, present, and future policies influence food systems all around the world, but especially here locally. One of my favorite aha moments in my journey in food systems and to becoming a local food advocate was the realization of how these policy systems and changes affected my life and the life of my family. Imagine yourself in a checkout line at the grocery store. You have a shopping cart full of food, and you look on either side of you as you're waiting in line. What do you see? Candy, chewing gum, sugar-sweetened beverages, gossip magazines, lots of impulse and convenience buys. We're all very used to it that we kind of tend to block out those aisles. Now imagine if the policies, the systems, the unions were powerful enough to have those aisles instead be stocked with fresh fruit and vegetables, water, perhaps. It's a little hard to imagine. But I know some of you knew that it wasn't always like this. Our time in this food system is fairly new. And for me, my hope is that it doesn't always have to be like this. I work in local food because I believe that we are capable of making the food grown and raised by our neighbors more accessible than that of a product that has traveled thousands of miles, isn't very good for you, and the sale of said product doesn't really benefit our community in the long run. I like looking at why things are the way they are. Like, why is it cheaper to transport food on plane, boat, train, and truck than it is from buying from those in our hometown? Why is it that the food that nourishes us is also the most unaffordable? Why is land access, or the lack thereof, the defining barrier to sustainable food production for my generation? What does justice and equity in food production look like, especially when considering agriculture's violent, exploitative, and shameful past? Before I attempt to try to answer a few of these questions and tie into the work that's being done locally, let me set the scene with a synopsis of our market. So, the Prescott Farmers Market is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that celebrated its 26th birthday this year. We started as a seasonal farmers cooperative at the downtown square that some of you might have remembered. And it's transformed into a bustling year-round market. We employ 10 people, host up to 60 vendors, see between 2,000 and 3,000 customers every single Saturday. And in 2022, had a combined sales total of $1.7 million. As a vital part of this local economy, the mission of Prescott Farmers Market is to support and expand local agriculture, cultivate a healthy community, and increase access to affordable local food. The market is producer only, which means that all vendors must grow, raise, or produce what they sell. And for the past 26 years, PFM has provided a market through which small-scale farmers can sell their goods and make a livable wage. So next slide. So as a market, we participate in a ton of different programming that you might be familiar with. The first is a federally funded food security program called the Farmers Market Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, better known as WIC. We also double Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program benefits, also known as SNAP. Maybe you all know them as food stamp benefits. And in this doubling, we ensure that people have access to fresh local food. On the slide, you can see, in addition to our Saturday market, we have a ton of collaborative community programs. I'm not going to go through all of these today. I encourage you to check out our website where we go into different aspects of these programs. Feed Your Neighbors, Community Compost, our sustainability booth, and much, much more. But today, I want to shed some light on the question I get asked all of the time, which is, you all only work on Saturdays. What do you do the rest of the week? So I'm going to try to pull back the curtain and show you what I do and learn more about our local food system. Okay. So I like to think of our organization in two distinct parts or buckets. The first is this public-facing bucket. The one that you're most familiar with. Tents on a Saturday morning, lots of local fresh produce, seeing your friends and neighbors. And most of the programming on that last slide falls into this first bucket. I lovingly refer to it as our public-facing bucket. The work I do falls into this second bucket. I call my job the behind-the-scenes job. This is where work on broader policy systems and environmental change occurs. Where I network, I sit on lots of boards and committees, and I think about capacity and infrastructure all of the time. So next slide, please. So what I do. I support the people and businesses that make local food possible. We understand that there are people behind all of the products that you see at the market and out in the community. And we want to ensure those people are supported. I do this by taking a holistic view of our local food system. And I work towards sustainable, equitable, and resilient relationships with our farmers, ranchers, and food producers. This was the intention when my job was posted toward the end of 2021. PFM staff and board members, stakeholders, were looking for someone to craft deep, lasting relationships with producers and their families, the ones that have been here for generations and the ones that hope to be here for generations. And so, lost my spot. Before coming to the Prescott Farmers Market, I was working at the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension, which is right around the corner for those of you that know this area. And I ran a federal nutrition program called SNAP Ed, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education. Distilled down, this looks like a federal nutrition program that wanted a return on investment. Congress spends billions of dollars in food stamp benefits for eligible Americans every year. In fact, it's the largest expenditure title in the Farm Bill, accounting for more than 80% of total spending. I think the only other bill that Congress does that's bigger than this is the defense bill. The return on investment for the federal government is ending hunger and childhood obesity. Those are the top two goals of SNAP. To do this, the federal government needs outreach programs in every part of the country and to educate the public about how to make the healthy choice, the easy choice on a limited budget. So I learned a ton in 6 years doing this job. And the first and most crucial thing I learned is that relationships are crucial. I was a one-woman show for 6 years, doing outreach, education, and broader systems strategizing throughout Yavapai County, which is the size of New Jersey, for those of you that aren't familiar. And I had a budget where about 45% of it was just my salary. So tall task, tall order in front of me. For comparison, the SNAP Ed program in Maricopa County employs 35 people and has multi-million-dollar budget. So kind of comparing apples and oranges at that level. So nothing I pursued got done without the help of partners, volunteers, community members, and other dedicated personnel throughout Yavapai County. It was also during this time that I came to realize how important the local food system actually was, and how there was so much opportunity to really influence positive, progressive change. One of my main partners at the time was Prescott Farmers Market. And I remember seeing this job opening come across my inbox. Briefly, it said that PFM has recognized that building trust and developing authentic relationships with vendors is the key to the success of their mission. That right there had me plugged in: trust and authentic relationships. And so I jumped on. The vendor development coordinator is primarily responsible for maintaining these relationships and is the foundation of our vendor development effort, which includes supporting vendors with needs to the market, but as well as the growth and expansion of their small businesses. My success, my staying power is based on investment in this community and building those deep, lasting relationships with the people that grow and raise our food. Speaking Spanish was an essential qualification for this role. About, depending on the season, 1/3 to 2/3 of our main growers are Latino and Spanish speaking, and they needed to be served as such. And so needless to say, I jumped into this opportunity, and here I am about 1.5 years later, and it's been a whirlwind of a journey. I wanted to give you a glimpse of some of the groups that I have the privilege of working with. The picture on the screen is a photo of the United States Department of Agriculture Fruit and Vegetable Industry Advisory Committee. If you've worked with federal government, you know acronyms and names are very long and complicated. So this is the FVIAC group, and that is us in Washington, D.C. in April of this past year. I'm tall, so I'm in the very back row. I also sit on the Urban and Small Farm Subcommittee for Natural Resource and Conservation Service of the State Technical Committee here in Arizona, where Phoenix and the surrounding areas, of which we're included, was recently named one of 17 urban growing zones in the nation. I'm a participant of the newly formed Arizona Food Systems Network, which recently adopted Arizona's first statewide food action plan. If you all come from other states, I would encourage you to look up the food action plan from the state you come from, because it's probably very old and very lengthy. Arizona is just now starting to get into the swing of having an organization around food and food action. I'm super active in promoting the new legislation around Arizona Agricultural Workforce Apprentice. This was passed by the state legislature in 2021, which pairs people who want a career in ag with currently working farms and ranches, and the state pays them $10,000 to work on these working ranches and farms, which is amazing. It's never happened before. I've also been involved in Verde Valley Food Policy Council, Yavapai Food Policy Council, Community Health Improvement, and most any other public health group in the county. And so I mention all of this to highlight some of the multifaceted natures of food and food systems, and the need for advocates and allies to leverage all of these relationships and all of these resources to help our communities where they're at right now and the problems that they're facing. So, thank you. Okay, so the next few slides are just pictures for you all that are really nice to look at. And these are some of the people and places that I have the privilege of working alongside. Each of these slide sets represents a different aspect of local food systems, be it production, aggregation, distribution, transportation, commerce and access, all the way back around to disposal. But first in local food is always production. And I love this quote from the National Young Farmers Coalition that states, quote, "Policy presents many of the most impactful opportunities to help young farmers and ranchers. We believe we can drive necessary transformations by centering the voices of farmers most marginalized from policymaking processes, equitably resourcing and training farm leaders across the country, and advocating for farmer-driven, equitable, and intersectional policy recommendations in service of both incremental and radical change." Many of you might know that our farming population is quickly aging out of the industry, and we don't have a whole lot of young people saying, "I want to be a farmer" when they grow up. This represents one of the many challenges production faces: land access, water access, reliable employees, capital, infrastructure, planning and zoning law, tax law, permits, regulation, climate change, making a living wage, health insurance are but a few obstacles that my producers face. Not to mention that they grow food year-round in Arizona, which is hard in and of itself. So I try to bend over backwards for these folks because they bend over backwards to get fresh food to our community. A quote from Vandana Shiva says, quote, "The time has come to reclaim the stolen harvest and celebrate the growing and giving of good food as the highest gift and the most revolutionary act." Next slide, please. Aggregation and transportation. I lovingly refer to this as the messy middle. This is the true behind the scenes work that a lot of people don't see, don't want to see, don't understand. The redistribution and repurposing of equipment, infrastructure, and processes is my current obsession. If you have a refrigerated vehicle and would like to donate it to me, please come see me. It's very much at the top of my list. We in local food battle the public perception that food just appears at the store, on your plate, wherever you may get food, in your fridge. And there's very little thought of how it actually got there. During COVID-19, as I'm sure many of you all remember, there was a supply chain disruption, right? And I had a community leader here ask us why the Prescott Farmers Market couldn't just put food on the empty shelves and fries. Like, why can't we just make that happen? It was in that moment that I realized the education of this messy middle, the understanding of how this actually works, was not held by our local decision makers and leaders. Who gets an education in food system distribution? Very few of us, right? So we all remember bare shelves, extremely limited meat, eggs, other essential items. The cause was this of the breakdown of the supply chain, but also the lack of aggregation hubs, packagers, transporters, and receivers, and what I call cold infrastructure. Anything refrigerated or frozen, especially in rural areas, is extremely lacking. The future of local food lies in this messy middle and with the people and organization that move food to get to you. So next slide, please. Next is local food access and commerce. This is where the public jumps back in because you can see it, you can touch it, you make decisions about it. Local food has a bad reputation of being unaffordable, inaccessible, and confusing. Many of us expect certain types of food year-round and expect to pay the lowest price for that food. According to the World Economic Forum, there are only 8 countries in the world that spend less than 10% of their household income on food. 4 of these are in Europe: the UK, Switzerland, Ireland, and Austria. The remaining 4 are spread across the globe. The US spends the least at 6.4% of total household income. Singapore spends the second lowest at 6.7, Canada at 9.1, and Australia at 9.8. We were worried about inflation this last few years. Imagine spending 10% of our income on food. It's a big jump. At the farmers market, we pride ourselves on making food affordable and being the first farmers market to accept food stamp benefits at our market in the county. We are active in advocating for true market prices at the same time for our farmers and their products, understanding that if we continue to offset the costs of producing food, we will hurt the environment, agricultural workforce, and our bodies in trying to maintain cheap, highly processed food. Next slide, please. Local food is for the environment. This is the disposal part of the food system. Local food doesn't stop at just the sale and consumption of food. Its journey continues on, and we at the Prescott Farmers Market are active and passionate about the entire life cycle of food in our communities. Our community compost site is a fun and vibrant response to the overwhelming problem of food waste. We showcase how waste can become gold with a bit of elbow grease and time. And I welcome any and all of you who are interested to stop by our site. It's around the corner at Schemmer and Gail Gardner, and we're there Sundays at this time of the year, super early until about noon since it's hot. Next slide, please. Finally, I would be remiss to say if local food isn't about the people. We have an amazing cohort of staff, board members, volunteers, farmers, ranchers, chefs, and food entrepreneurs that make what we do at the market possible. I think of our people as true community in action. We are visionaries, innovators, caretakers, neighbors, and friends. And I want to leave you all with a quote from Paula Daniels. She's the co-founder of the Center for Good Food Purchasing. Quote, "This is a time I think of as a great reckoning, seeing the public interest in food and how important food is as a public service is how procurement works. It aligns the purchasing power of government institutions with what the values of the public are. I think of an important next step would be to have city or municipal leaders set aggregate purchase targets and invite and encourage and persuade all large food service institutions to participate in setting these aggregate targets. And then you can really start making accelerated change in the local food economy, which is something we know we need to build back right now. The idea of good food purchasing is to support equity and support creating economic opportunity for those who have not had that economic opportunity." Go ahead and next slide. So, a final call for action. We have had the privilege of working in this community for over 26 years. We believe our neighbors can trust us and that we will utilize our community support in the best way possible to fulfill our mission. And we don't exist without our community and with help from people like you. So if you feel particularly passionate about an aspect of our food system, or if you need compost or want to talk to me about veggies, please do so and reach out. I have some ideas for action. First is to just know a farmer or a gardener, or try to grow something yourself. Come visit us at the market, plant a seed cooked for a loved one, compost your food waste, please, or give it to chickens. Volunteer, and then the best way to support us is always unrestricted funding so that that messy middle and behind the scenes work that I do can continue to be funded. For now and all generations to come, thank you so much for your time, I appreciate all of you and being given the space. Thanks.
The unexpected always happens. Suddenly I'm surrounded by children and we're delighted to have them here. Thank you, bottom of our hearts, Rebecca. This was just extraordinary. And for us to become aware of exactly what is going on, I'm sure we have a lot more to learn. So thank you. For those present in the sanctuary, please stand in body or spirit. With our closing hymn, Give Thanks, number 69 in the hymnal, or the words will be on the screen. This is sung to the tune of How Firm a Foundation, for those of you who are familiar with that traditional hymn. For gratitude and reverence of life, we savor food mindful of all that have contributed to it. We commit ourselves to a more equitable sharing of the earth's bounty. We honor which Mother Earth provides. The rain and sun and soil, each necessary to produce our food. And as we are in need of rain right now, we're going to ask you to all stand around in a large circle. And if someone could bring a few chairs out for those that can't stand, but we're going to make a circle around the outside of the chairs as I bring you through an exercise called Call in the Rain. So if you could please get in formation and bring out a few chairs for those who need to sit. There's no need to hold hands, but the children might want to. No need to hold hands. Oh, you may hold hands if you want. My goodness. For those of you on Zoom, we're going to be doing Calling in the Rain. You'll be able to hear some sounds, but it starts like this, the little snapping of the fingers, and then this motion, and then pitter patter of your thigh, and then stamping of the feet. And then we'll recede in those movements in a few minutes. Okay, if you could all look at me and listen just for a second, maybe a minute. I will be in the middle, When you see eye contact, I will individually have eye contact with you. You will do the movement that I am doing, and you will continue until I get to you again to change the movement. Got it? So let's say I start with Paula. I'm going to go from Paula to Bobby and all the way around. And then when I get to Paula, I'm going to change the movement, but you keep doing the original movement until I get to you. Duh. Okay. So here we go. This is Call in the Rain. Just a few more words. I'd like you to greet your neighbors now. Enjoy greeting everyone as you're standing. Suki, if you could go to the back door and greet people as they enter the fellowship. And let us extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame not for the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Greet your neighbor. For those on Zoom, you may go to your breakout rooms. See you soon.